As a man, he must endure the wrath of God against transgression. And we'll talk about that shortly. Christ was now standing in a different attitude from that which he had ever stood before. His suffering can best be described in the words of the prophet, "Awake, O sword, against my shepherd, against the man that's my fellow, saith the Lord of hosts." That's in Zechariah. As the substitute and surety for sinful man, Christ was suffering under divine justice. He saw what justice meant. Hitherto he had been as an intercessor for others. Now he longed to have an intercessor for himself. So I want to look for a minute, just a quick, we cover this a lot in the Sabbath school, and I just want to say, talk about, is there a difference between God's anger and wrath in the Bible? And so we may not have time to go through all that, but Romans 1 talks about the wrath of God, and I will just summarize it rather than go through the details. I have 7 verses here, and the first one is Romans 1, which was wrath. God gave them over. He just let them, he couldn't change their course. They wouldn't change, so he just had to let them go because there was nothing in them that would change back. And the 2 Kings 24:20, things that happened to Jerusalem and Judah, in the end, he thrust them from his presence. So that's anger, using the word anger, but thrust them from his presence. Again, pushing, I can't help you if you're going to be this way. The third verse that I said was Isaiah 42:24 and 25. Who handed Jacob over to become loot, and Israel to the plunderers? Was it not the Lord against whom we've sinned? So they still didn't learn, though he handed them over. All God had to do, you have to consider that Israel was like a sitting duck, surrounded by enemies, strong enemies on every side. The only thing God ever had to do was remove his protection, and somebody was going to come and get him. He didn't have to do anything active. He is portrayed as doing some things active, but mostly you'll see that he pushed him away. He no longer watches over him. Lamentations 4:11-16. He's given full vent to his wrath and poured out his fierce anger because of the sins of the prophets and the iniquities of the priests. The Lord himself has scattered them. He no longer watches out for them. This is a description of anger and wrath. And 5 would be Psalm 78:59-30-61. He rejected Israel completely. There's another one that's furious, that uses furious. And then wrath in Jeremiah. All their captors held them fast, refusing to let them go. So this wrath is defending his people who were being kept. He allowed them to be taken, but they wouldn't let the people go, so he had to actively get them back. So he took that wrath and actually, you saved these prisoners from the prisoner of war camp. I'm going in. And then number 7 is Zephaniah 1:18. Neither their silver or gold will be able to save him, the Lord's wrath. By the fire of his jealousy, the whole earth will be consumed, and he'll make a sudden end to all those on earth. So when you look at these various things, it almost seems interchangeable. There's some of it where he takes an active part, like retrieving people. There's some of it where, and coming at the end of time, where people can't stand in his presence, and they're consumed by the brightness of his coming, the Bible says. Some of it's more the result of what we decide. Most of it's the result of what we decide, and most of it is kind of letting you have your way, so to speak. Wednesday we talk about the crucified God. Now we're right down to it.